said that music is a higher revelation than all wisdom and philosophy. We can clearly see that his statement holds true today. Music makes up a large portion of our entertainment, from the music we listen to on the radio or the background music to our favorite TV show or movie. But music is also an important tool in our education. We learn the alphabet, the days of the week, and even how to spell all through song as children. So why is it that such an important tool in our lives is the first to go whenever schools receive budget cuts? Today we're going to take a look at the growing problem of students dropping out of high school, how the arts can keep these students in school, and what we as a community can do in order to save the arts. According to a study done by Civic Enterprises researcher John M. Bridgeland, 47% of students who do not complete high school say they drop out because their classes were not interesting. Of those students, 7 out of 10 of them said that none of their classes required any motivation. A more specific study done by the New York area shows that 69% of students said that they were not inspired or motivated in any of their classes. The results of this lack of motivation are quite devastating. As we can see, 75% of freshmen and sophomore students dropped out of high school, 69% of juniors, and 59% of seniors. The majority of these students were in the low to mid-range of GPAs. But what could be the most startling fact about this study is that it's not limited to minorities or students whose parents are not involved in their lives. This epidemic is equally spread throughout all races and the levels of parental involvement. So the big question is, how can the arts help keep these students in school? Well, a study done by a professor of psychology at the University of Santa Barbara, Michael Escazanza, shows that music training has a direct link to a higher motivation. According to a study, students who were enrolled in one or more arts courses had a higher motivation for those specific courses. This motivation then expanded to the rest of their courses throughout the day. A more specific study done by Ellen Winter, the Senior Research Associate for the Harvard School of Education, showed a little more detail on which areas of the arts affect which areas of our education. Her results showed that the arts had increased memory and verbal skills. Students who were involved in piano or keyboard training had higher scores in mathematics. And students who were involved in drama or classroom acting showed higher skills in memory, reading, and language. By being forced to be involved and hands-on with what they were learning, it helped them to understand and retain the information better than if they were just reading it out of a textbook. So why is it that such an important tool to our education is the first to go whenever schools need to save money? I can speak from experience as a graduate from Charleston High School. Within the last year, our entire art department has been terminated due to the budget cuts from our schools. I was greatly involved in the choral department all 4 years of my schooling, including being the president my senior year. Every year I saw my choir teacher struggle to make ends meet. The state only budgeted enough money for us to receive 2 new pieces of music every year. On each of our concerts, we performed 10 to 15 pieces, and we had 4 of them every year. So what could we do to sort of balance out our budget? We were required to do 4 different fundraisers every year and to perform community fundraisers such as doing odd jobs for people door to door in order to raise money, or the classic car wash. Now, according to the same New York study I mentioned before, the schools with the highest percentage of graduates also were the highest ranking in percentages of funds that they were raised outside of the schools. That means that they were required to do fundraisers just like I was in order to raise money for their programs. This dedication to the arts shows that they're going to be dedicated in other areas of their education. So, what can schools do in order to help keep the arts involved? Well, what the highest ranking schools in New York had to say about it was what I like to call the 40% method. They had 40% more certified arts teachers per school, which really just boils down to 1 teacher per school. They had 40% more physical spaces dedicated to the arts, and those classrooms were 40% more equipped to teach the arts. So, in the instance of an art class, you need easels or paintbrushes just as much as a math class needs desks and pencils. And what I think was the most interesting part of this study is that 40% more graduates had completed 3 or more courses in the arts. I know you might be thinking, well, That might be great for a big school in New York, but what can a small school like Charleston High School do in order to help save their arts programs? The answer is simple. Expand course offerings. If students want to take a course in dance or pottery or music, having more options will help keep students involved in the different areas of the arts that they enjoy most. Another important thing to do is to hire certified arts teachers. Many of you may know that you can hire a teacher in education who is not certified in music. And many times this happens because they're cheaper to employ. But having someone who has an educational background in the topic that they're teaching will help students become more passionate about what they're learning because their teachers are educated and passionate about the subject. Another important thing is to have the adequate classroom spaces that you need. If you're teaching a dance class, you're going to need a performance space. Also to have the resources to support instruction. And what I think is the most important thing to have for your school to have is to be in compliance with state regulations for your arts programs. Each state has their specific requirements for how many arts courses a student must take in order to graduate. But what we can do to take this a step further is to have the schools vote to increase the amount of arts courses they must require for education. By having a higher requirements, the state will be required to provide more of a budget for those courses. So now we've discussed what the schools can do in order to save the arts, but what can we do? The answer is a little more difficult. There's no sort of corporation where you can just go in and send a check to help save the arts. You actually have to do something. What we need to do is develop a plan. Make sure that it's developed to focus mostly on those that can actually provide funding for the programs, such as educators, artists, community members, and parents. Once you have this plan, decide how to communicate it. Have a town meeting or speak at your school board meeting. Show people that you are really passionate about the arts and that you think that it's important for them to stay in school. Now, with the way that the school budget is going, the chances of your children studying the arts in schools is looking slim to none. And if we let this continue to happen, it'll be like musicians have never learned how to play instruments, or actors have never learned how to act. And then soon, our movies are going to have no actors, and our radios are going to have no music. It's our job to make sure that that doesn't happen. So act out and save the arts. Thank you.